Wouldn't you love to work 32 hours instead of 40? Wouldn't you love to spend more time with your family and doing more things you love? Spending time on your hobbies, spending time outside, spending time with your dog? Well, working 32 hours instead of 40 hours is actually called a 4-day work week. And it sounds crazy, but it's actually not that crazy of an idea. Turns out it actually might even be beneficial. How many times were you at work and you get there and you kind of just stare at your computer for the first hour? Or at the end of the day, you're just burnt out, and the last hour you just kind of browse TikTok or Facebook or whatever you're into. Well, that is partly why the 4-day work weeks make so much sense because it makes you more productive and less burnt out. When people are burnt out, they work less. When you work less, you're less productive. And overall, it's just bad time management. So having shorter work weeks means more burnout. So I know Friday afternoons at my job kind of feel like gel. So I spent some time really understanding why Americans should adopt the 4-day work week. To really understand why I think Americans should adopt this idea, let's look at some real life ideas. Both companies and even countries have adopted this idea and it has been very successful in many ways. For example, when Microsoft Soft launched the idea in Japan, workers were 40% more productive, 25% less time off, and they even used 23% less energy. This means that it benefited the company, the employee, and the world. More productivity means more efficient companies. Less time off means more efficient company. Less electricity is better for the company. And the employees were just overall much happier. So that's the first one. As for the second idea, New Zealand. New Zealand shifted for the 4-day work week for a while and they saw similar results, but at a much wider scale. They saw the productivity of the companies and employees increase. The happiness increased and they were overall less stressed employees. They saw the employees become less stressed, which leads to better overall health, which just makes their work-life balance better, and they were just happier. A happier people makes a country and society much happier, and that improves overall society. So these are two examples at a smaller scale and a larger scale that we really saw why the 4-day work week made sense. So now let's move on to the pros and cons of the 4-day work week. When making any argument, it is very important to look at both sides of that argument. So let's do that. We've discussed some of the overall pros and we've seen some real life examples. So now let's go over some of the cons. First of all, the main con is going to be it's not going to work for everybody and every company. Some companies need to be open on the weekends, some companies need to be working at night. So this overall does not work for all companies. This is more an office setting kind of job that it will work for, but that's just a con for some companies, not all. If you use social or work as a social outlet for you, this is also could be a con because it may be more or less social because you're doing Teams meetings and you might just be in and out of the office at different times. But if you're an introvert like me, I wouldn't care at all, and it actually is kind of a benefit for me. The main other one big con is scheduling. Scheduling could be slightly different because you have one less day to work between each other's schedules. So while you might just have to be more efficient at scheduling, it may make it a little bit more difficult. And some people are convinced that you'd actually burn out quicker because you're working harder. But really, I think that you have to remember that you also have 3 days to recharge instead of 1. So now let's go back over some of the pros. We already learned that the productivity increases and that the positivity increases with the 4-day work week. So what about the employee's happiness? That's obviously one of the biggest things that we have to look for because happy people, happy employees are just better overall. When one company, in fact, did this trial for the company and they found out that it was basically priceless to some of these employees, they said that there was some employees were even saying no amount of money would make them go back to a 5-day work week. So that really shows you how much happier they were. Talking about money, there's also some financial gains for the company because A, they're giving a benefit to people that doesn't cost them any money, and B, they could be closed 1 day a week, which is less electricity, less overhead overall. And lastly, I think it's pretty important to mention less wasted time. With a 4-day work week, we aren't wasting the company's time or our time. We come to work, we get it done, we leave. There's no reason that we're just sitting there just because we have to. And I think that's overall one of the most important things we need to remember. I don't need to browse TikTok because my company says I need to work a certain amount of time. I should come in and do my work the best I can and then leave. And then we're both much happier. So in conclusion, this is why I believe the 4-day work week would be awesome to adapt in America. Obviously not for everyone, but for the companies that could. I know that productivity increases, happiness increases, stress decreases, financial impact increases, and we could even help the world because we could be using less energy or using energy at home with our families, our friends, our dogs, people that need us. So I think it's something that is actually very possible. I know that 32 hours compared to 40 hours doesn't seem like that big a difference, but that's really 8 more hours you have to yourself. But really, it's like a whole day you have extra to yourself to recharge and do things you love. And you could volunteer more. We could spend more time with people that need us that we just don't have time for because we have to come home from work and we're tired. So the 4-day work week really is, I think the pros really do outweigh the cons. And I think that while it will never happen over a big scale, it is in the Senate right now for different things. So let's consider it. Because let me ask you, I'm a lake person. Are you a lake or an ocean person? Well, me being a lake person, I know I would love one extra day a week to spend at the lake.